Dr. Millstone. I'm from the Public Health Advocacy Institute of Western Australia. There are so many positive stories about how Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people are improving the health of their communities. The Western Australian Indigenous Storybook was created to share these stories and to balance the negative stereotyping of Aboriginal people within the mainstream media. The stories in the storybook would often have gone untold if it had not been for the storybook. So the West Australian Indigenous Storybook went about seeking these stories and working with community members to translate the stories from an oral narrative to a text-based story. And this enabled us to share the stories now and into the future. The Public Health Advocacy Institute of Western Australia created the storybook in essence to allow storytellers to share their stories that reveal the depth and richness of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander history and culture. An important part of this project was to provide the opportunity for people and organisations to showcase themselves and the work they do. We wanted to give communities the opportunity to learn from each other and demonstrate programs that could be replicated. It was critically important to recognise local and emerging leaders and to provide them with the opportunity to get their stories into the public arena and showcase how they were teaching young people about law and culture. You Gotta Wash Your Face to Come to My Place was a story about a program that targeted young adults in Aboriginal communities who were looking for a partner or a bit of romance. The outcome was to increase personal hygiene and provide sexual health education to teenagers. The team that developed the concept considered that if the young people looked clean and healthy, they would be more likely to get a date. This program is a great example of one that could be replicated in other communities. The beauty of these storybooks is that each story is different. Each storyteller has used their own style to tell their story. Some stories are in first person. Some reflect the work of others in their communities. Some stories describe one-off programs, and others span years of hard work. Some stories are told by non-Aboriginal people who have been working with Aboriginal communities, and they tell of the many lessons they have learnt along the way. Despite their format, style or topic, the common thread amongst all of the stories is they have resulted in making a difference. They all tell of positive impacts at the community level and provide people with a creative platform to have their voices heard, make them feel valued, and contribute to social and emotional well-being.
There's a lot of distance between the big boss and me. Mr. Prime Minister and this young black origine. And one thing's for certain, and I'm sure you will agree, that we're so different, you and me. So when you're in Canberra, do you really think of me? When you're in conversations of all your ideology, just remember me and my family are sitting on country.
Highlighting leaders in Aboriginal communities was one of the aims of the storybook. Albert Wiggin told his personal journey, describing his life and work as an activist, musician, spokesperson for his country, and role model for Aboriginal young people in the Kimberley. The emergence of Strong Future Leaders story showcased the strategies being used to mentor up-and-coming young leaders by elders in the great southern region of Western Australia. Some of the stories were emotional, and through the process of capturing the story, strong personal bonds were built. Aboriginal woman Violet Evans is part of the Stolen Generation. After we published Violet's story, she was invited to speak on GWN7 and ABC News regarding her experience so that mainstream Australians could start to understand the trauma caused. Although draining for Violet, she was so proud to tell her story and found the experience to be empowering and uplifting. Some stories revealed amazing new initiatives. The Welcome to Country, the smartphone app, was developed by a young Aboriginal media business owner and is described as a virtual experience of Australian Aboriginal culture, history and heritage blended with today's cutting-edge technology. The app teaches people about cultural knowledge, language, local protocols, skin names and tribal boundaries as they travel through his country.
Actually grabbing those stories and promoting them, because ultimately governments can only really succeed in those gaps around health in particular with the successful partnership and programming that comes from Aboriginal people. And Aboriginal people are doing this for a long period of time and have been doing it successfully.
Fewa was really just the conduit for these stories. We did not create the stories. We simply created a way of sharing them. But this was an important role because many of these stories would otherwise have gone unrecognised. As the storytelling process developed, it was so wonderful for us to see the many great projects that were already underway in many of our Western Australian Aboriginal communities. One of the main learnings for us as we partnered with our storytellers was that the more people felt trusted and supported, the more they would open up. And the storytellers did trust us. They allowed us to put their stories on paper so all Australians could read about the positive impact that their projects were having on their community members. I feel humbled to have worked on this project. The people I met, the places I visited, and the knowledge that I learnt were very special. But most of all, I was proud to be able to give our Aboriginal people a voice so that they could contribute and share their unique perspectives and culture. The Storybook has been a wonderful project. It's been a journey that has both enriched the Aboriginal communities and enlightened the wider Australian community.